of Anglo-American Platinum. Now we're joined by Sheldon Fredrickson, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Fedgroup, for a conversation about the trends that are shaping alternative investments both on the local and global front. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
I want us to start with those trends. What are you seeing currently in terms of the uptake of alternative investments?
So there's been massive uptake, particularly internationally. In the more formalized markets, the institutional investment funds and asset managers have incorporated upwards of 20% in their funds, whereas in South Africa we are lagging behind a bit, sitting at 2%. However, there's great interest in the market at the moment, with it being top of mind issue with initiatives like job creation as well as the utilization of land.
And what would it take for us? You did mention that 2% lag in South Africa, but what would it take for that to change?
So it's the realization from the asset managers that with the lack of returns at the moment in the equity markets, that there are alternative investment products out there or initiatives that they could support that can deliver sustainable returns that still meet the benchmark performance that they require, but they're not your traditional investments in equity in companies on the JSE.
Sheldon, that's very frustrating because some critics actually do argue that the return on investment from this kind of vehicles, investment vehicles, are not as attractive as your traditional S&P 500. And how do you change that particular mindset? Because on one end, you might be saying that they are as attractive, but the rest of the portfolio managers out there think otherwise.
So it depends on how you measure the attractiveness. So our belief is that sustainable investment is giving a fair return, but also making a greater impact. And that drives the reason why people want to invest. There are investments out there that deliver consistency of returns instead of the volatility that you receive in the markets. So there's obviously many factors in a portfolio manager's decision-making process, and it's whether he upweights certain factors above others that delivers consistency of returns, for one, such as renewable energy is quite a consistent alternative investment. That might not give you your CPI plus 11% returns, but it gives you consistency of returns, which works very well for individuals that are conservative, like pension funds, that want that longevity of return over a sustained period.
And Sheldon, this is where it gets interesting because on one end, people are edging into renewables, but on the other, you have a president of the developed world saying that climate change is a hoax, and that, of course, is going to hurt the attractiveness of some of these renewable projects. And isn't this kind of hipster investing, as some have actually put it out there? Because you're not looking at financial returns per se, you're looking at ideals and you're being liberal, which is great, but at the end of the day, Wall Street is going to edge you up because they're looking for the numbers and the zeros and they just want to make money.
100%, and that is a challenge that this industry obviously faces, which they are trying to deliver and mitigate on in making them sustainable. And sustainability comes from actually making an impact in the environment, but also delivering financial returns that would compensate the investor putting their money into it. So it's key to have a financial model that services both parties and not being just a liberal initiative where your investors are going to be donating their funds into it.
Right, you've spoken about renewable energy as one of those growing industries that dominate alternative investing. What other industries are we talking about?
So agriculture is a definite one that is top of mind at the moment, and that is obviously making impact in terms of food security and the environment, as well as smart farming techniques that are with water conservation being top of mind, particularly in the Western Cape, and the utilization of land with the job creation, with farmers, the workers doing the harvest, and delivering food security into South Africa particularly, but utilizing the unused land in Africa broadly.
Sheldon, very briefly, just give me two companies or two vehicles that are actually standing out here.
So the one on the significant institutional side in South Africa is Future Growth. They have been driving sustainable investments in infrastructure as well as various other initiatives. And then Fedgroup is behind what we term impact farming, which is delivering on renewable energy, agriculture in blueberry farming and beehives.
Sheldon, good to have you in the studio, and really looking forward to getting some of those numbers later on in the year. That was Sheldon Fredrickson, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Fedgroup. More Power in South Africa right after this break.